Hey everyone, it's AJ from Pixelize. Today I want to cover quickly the database for WordPress, how it's managed its relationship in the content management system. It's different compared to other management systems out there because WordPress itself is a open source, so it gives you the flexibility and scalability of building something full scale if you want to. So I think it's important to understand how the database works, whether you're doing a small project for a local business or maybe you're building an e-commerce or directory listing. I think it's important to understand how exactly you manage the relationship in WordPress. And also I will show you on a SQL workbench how the foreign key constraint works compared to how WordPress does it, right? So currently, just to use this as a visual representation, there's, by the way, no coding or any technical stuff, just sort of give you a bit of better understanding. I'm using a Draw SQL, which you could use it yourself as well. If you want to create a database, it gives you the opportunity to build a visual representation of your tables. I think it's pretty cool. As you can see, there's a BuddyPress template as well and other templates. And if you click on the BuddyPress template, you will see how their table is structured roughly, which gives you a good idea. Last time it's been updated was a month ago, added 4 years ago. You can see their table is a bit different and have a prefix of BuddyPress. So if you quickly zoom it in, I don't want to go into this, but you can see how it's built up, right? So let's go back to WordPress database template, and let's go open this up. Okay, so you can see you could zoom it in and create it. That's pretty cool, isn't it? You could show the relationship. So imagine this canvas, it's one database which would be called WordPress. These are the tables which you can see, and you could create more tables if you want, but this is pretty much the default from the WordPress. These lines represent a relationship. Okay, the keys represents a primary key, something to identify as, well, basically to identifier, right? So if you got a user created and they have an ID 5, you want to use that key to identify a user's post that they create under that ID. So as you can see, if we're gonna, let's say, use that as an example, we have a user which would have an ID with the information. If they create a post, it creates ID for that post, but also links the ID to that post. So you have hundreds of different users, create hundreds of different posts, but let's say user with ID 7 wants to display all the posts they have created on their account. You would use fetch the user ID match where a post often matches user, and that way you'll be able to put this on your account. If that posts have comments like here, then obviously you link that post ID, not user ID but post ID, into the comment post ID column. But again, each comment is added, creates a new ID for that, which then, as you can see, that comment ID as well has an ID which links to comment ID into comment meta table, right? So you can see there's a relationship. Now, how the relationship works in WordPress, it's manually managed compared to how you would have pretty much with foreign key constraint. Basically, a constraint is pretty much a conditions that set. So if a user is not created, it won't allow you to insert the data into a specific table, which WordPress hasn't got the constraints, is purely money to be managed. And that's why you have the flexibility, and that's why you have the scalability opportunity to build anything you want, because it's an open source and it's just pretty much the WordPress is built through a procedure coding mainly, and a little bit of a OOP. There's no MVC framework or anything like that. But if we go into the workbench, I will show you how the foreign key constraint works, just to give you an idea. But hopefully this gives you a rough idea of a WordPress database that you have to manually manage it. And if you buy a plugin or a theme, then make sure you check how they create the database, if they create it, and how it's managed. I think it's important to understand that, depending, obviously, if it's your little project or you're building for a client, then I would advise you to actually double check everything. if we go into the MySQL workbench, I already have created the tables. Pretty much this command just says if the table doesn't exist, it says create. If it does, ignore it. And as you notice, I can't really zoom this any more than already is. It just doesn't allow me. There's a key called foreign key, is a constraint, which will reference the user ID that is created under the post table. So I got in this column that references the users table ID. Okay, so if you notice, I have selected everything from users. So we got 3 users created with ID 1, 2, and 3. It auto increments. And if I go into posts, I already added the data into the post. Now with the foreign key constraints, the one benefit of that is you could set a cascading on where, for example, if a user deletes the account, all the data they, let's say, posted, created, all the posts will be deleted as well. You could put that condition on, or you could leave it. It's up to you, but you have the opportunity there, so you don't have to manually do this yourself, build that logic and that condition, which obviously WordPress gives you the flexibility of whatever you want to do. However, because of the foreign key constraints that it sets on the post table, that is needs to fetch the ID of the user table. If a user doesn't exist in the users table, it won't allow you to insert into the post. So let me show you. So on here I have a command, so let me just quickly uncomment this. So we see this post. There are 3 posts with ID first post, second, third. We can see that the first post was created by user 2, second post by user 2, and the first post was created by user 1 with ID 1, right? Now, if I want to insert into a post table, I will need a user ID, title, and a body. And the values will be the user ID that exists in the table. However, we don't have a user with ID 6. Therefore, it will throw me an error and won't allow me to insert anything into this. So let's put this user doesn't exist as a title. Okay, so let's execute this. Now you may think it's being loaded, but in reality I got an error at the bottom says that cannot add or update a child row. A foreign key constraint fails because the user doesn't exist. So if we now comment this out and uncomment this and run, we see it hasn't been added. However, if I use let's say ID of user 3, which is ID 3 of the third user, and says, let's put this is user ID 3 I exist. Okay, and we're gonna insert this. It's been inserted. So let's select now. And we see the ID of the post that's been created is ID 6, but the user itself is ID 3 of the user. Now the reason why it says 6 because there was more data beforehand and it got deleted. Okay, as you can see, obviously over here we haven't added anything as called 6. It just throws you an error, and then yeah. So if I insert again, just for example, and then I'm gonna show you how it is if you delete it. The whole thing should be deleted as well from that user. Let's keep it free and says this is just another post. Let's put the title just another post, and if you notice, it updates the day and time, so creates the time, which the update will be the same, but I'm gonna show you the difference in a sec. So it created, let's select. So now we can see the post ID is 7 and the user ID is still 3 because it's that the user that inserted this post was the user that existed in the user table, which means the constraints is a checking condition whether the user exists in a table of users. If it does, allows you to post in, which is pretty good. I think it depends on what you're building. Now, if we're gonna update something, let me just update. Let's say update set title equals updated title, where ID equals 7. Hopefully this will work if I remember. Update I need a table update post. Post. Hopefully this works if I remember off the top of my head. Yep, it's got updated. So we just updated the title. Now if you look at the time as well got updated and the date, but at the same time we see the ID hasn't changed, the user ID hasn't, but we have the title updated. So the condition is there. If we delete a user, so delete what was the condition? Delete from users where ID equals 3. So the user with ID 3 is deleted. So select from users. So we don't have that ID user, but let's now select all posts. So all the posts that were under the user ID of 3 that are deleted, it's been removed from the users table, their post no longer exists. So this is why a foreign key constraint could come in as handful, because you could set a condition to update on where it's updated and deleted when the account is deleted. So it's quite helpful. So to understand the difference between WordPress, how it's managing, which is manual management, you have to manually delete the post if you want to, but foreign key constraint helps you that. But obviously there's the pros and cons of it. So if you do want to have a little bit tutorial on SQL, I could create that tutorial and just run into more details of it. But hopefully this gives you better idea how the WordPress manages its database relationship compared to how other mostly manage them. So you need to think of whether you want to have a constraints or you want to manually manage them. Okay, so I'll leave that with you, but hopefully you learned something here, and if you liked it, let me know. Other than that, put comments in there if you got any questions, and I will see you on the next one.